As Adam rolls into the summer of 2019, stay tuned for details about a live roundtable conversation on location. The Adam Malamut Show will be live at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton. Details to follow. Adam?
So, Phil, when we took a break, we were starting to talk about the transition playbook for athletes, how elite athletes win after sports. And you said you had 100 approximately athletes participate in some fashion, whether it was through their experience or their guidance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, well, what we did, we got over 100 athletes, 25 Olympians from around the world, and from 30 different sports, men, women. It was super important for us to find diversity in this book. And, obviously men, women, black, white, gay, transgender. We hit a little bit of everything because athletes are these different, areas. They're everything. They're, and parents, this book, what we believe is going to be the go-to book in this area for athletes transitioning. It's been really well received so far, and we're super lucky with the people, who are buying it to support their athletes.
So without spoiling the book, because I want people to go and buy the book and read the book, and I had an opportunity to preview it, and I appreciate the copy that you brought me today. I'm for certain going to sit down and read it myself. So give us a little bit of a preview. Give us a teaser. Tell us about some of the athletes involved.
So, some of the athletes, we have an Olympian, Karen Davies. She's an Olympic rower, and she went on to get a JD at Columbia. She has an MBA from Oxford, an undergraduate from Harvard. And it was pretty cool. We were talking to her yesterday and thanking her for her contribution. And, the story I told her that we share about her, which is she is in 2012, she's in the Olympic Village in London. And you imagine, she's been training for this her entire life. And especially for these last 4 years for the event she's going to go do tomorrow, the rowing event. And the night before, you'll appreciate this as a lawyer, is she's filling out clerkship applications, to get a job after law school. The next day, she goes out and wins a gold medal. So there are athletes who are doing this, and she's just embodies what the playbook, the transition playbook for athletes is about.
So one of the other people I saw that participated, one of my partners is a huge New England Patriots fan, lives and dies with the Patriots. It's not him, but his brother, Chris Gronkowski, right?
So Chris is incredible. Chris, we were roommates in college together. I played with Chris in Dallas our first year, and Chris was recently on Shark Tank. And
I saw that.
Did you see that? Yeah, he killed it. He's doing some incredible things as an entrepreneur. Right now, he's got 2 multi-million-dollar businesses. And here's the thing is, people know the last name, but Chris is smart, and he would have made it happen without it. Guarantee. And he's another person who shares advice on business in the book.
So there's a lot of self-help books. A lot of self-help books that talk about transition, a lot of self-help books that talk about athlete transition. How's this book different?
Right. So, Adam, it was as simple as the books out there, when I read them, weren't good enough. There was a problem, and we created a solution for it. And that's how most, products do come out. But what we found, and what I found in this book is, there's 2 types of transition books that are written. The first one is written by the expert sports psychologist who uses big words and doesn't speak to the athlete. They write it white papers and they write it for other PhDs. That was out. I didn't connect with that. The next one is written by the former athlete who has found success after sports. The issue with that is it was 200 pages of biography with the advice on transition on page 50, page 70. So what we did with the transition playbook for athletes is we took that great advice from page 50 and 70, condensed it and made that one chapter. And we did that for 100 athletes. And we do have the expert sports psychologist in the book as well. We have 5 different sports psychologists from around the country, really from around the world, and they share their advice. So we're getting it from both ends.
So when you talk about elite athletes, what comes to mind is it really limits, right? It's a narrow field, although some of us in the room may think that we were once an elite athlete. We know that we weren't. But how do you get folks who aren't elite athletes to pick up what sounds like very relatable material in your book?
Well, you were telling me about your wrestling back in high school. So, it's definitely there is crossover, and here's where it is, Adam, is for the same reason that bodybuilders do cardio and sprinters lift weights. There's crossover. You take the best of the, best advice, and that's where we hope that people who are going through other transitions, military, retirement is another big one, and they'll be able to take these best principles and apply them, even though it is unique to sports sometimes, but you can take that principle and apply it to what you're doing. Let's
go back for a second, and we're talking about the transition. I don't think people really understand and appreciate the transition. So as an athlete, you're physically, you're conditioned. You're in presumably the best condition of your life. You're the belle of the ball, right? You walk into any room and people gravitate to you and want to talk to you and want to hear, what the Dallas Cowboys plans are for the season, or is Tony Romo going to make it back, or they're trying to fill their fantasy football rosters. But the transition's so much more than that, right? There's families involved, there's finances, there's an entire change of lifestyle. Before we go to break, give us a quick rundown on what transition really is for athletes.
Well, it's different for everyone. And that's where, why we did want to get such a diverse population of 100 athletes, because I'll grab onto something different than, my co-author Rob did or that you will in the book. But here's one thing we found, from this research is the earlier an athlete starts to prepare for the inevitable transition, the more successful they're going to be. And that's across the board in every sport. One thing that is, without a doubt, athletes can take away from this book.
Fantastic. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the transition playbook for athletes, how elite athletes win after sports. I can't wait to hear more.
Phil Costa is our special guest here for the full hour on the Adam Malamut Show. We'll get to our final break on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.